Hi, everybody. I'm George. I'm with Teslasuit. When I was a kid, I was inspired by this. How many people in the room, raise your hand if you know what this is? Just want to get a show of hands. Okay. You've all shown your age. Thank you. Being raised in this era, I'll just say, this was a time when I was a kid watching this kind of stuff. This is obviously from Star Wars. This is a painting by Ralph McQuarrie. He was the digital artist who created the visual effects for what George Lucas had created in the Star Wars universe. And being inspired or watching this kind of stuff on television or in the movies at that time was a time where I had a lot of sense of like being somebody else, right? My imagination went wild as a child, and I think God's given us this imagination to imagine and live in other ways and think other things. We talked a lot today about creativity, and I'll cover that in a second. But just seeing this on film was an inspiration, and then obviously me, like a lot of kids in my era, we wanted to be Luke Skywalker. We wanted to be these characters. The scene on the right is a video game that was in arcades back when we had arcades, like where you push buttons and this kind of stuff, and played this game for hours, right? Just imagining being an X-wing fighter pilot, attacking the Empire, and I think this imagination is what I want to talk about a little bit today, how it led me in my journey, but also how it can lead us together as we create new experiences with new technology. So, just a little bit about myself. This is not my entire life. I kind of shortened it for this presentation, obviously, but I wanted to highlight that actually before I went to university, I was inspired by some people in my church who went through Youth with a Mission and did a discipleship training school. I was actually part of a YWAM DTS in Atlanta, Georgia in 1992. It was the first DTS ever in Atlanta, and it was a very interesting experience for me, traveling also as a missionary to South America to minister with people on the streets in Bolivia. And it really just kind of like helped frame some thoughts about where I was going. At the time, I also thought maybe I'll be a missionary, like full-time. I was interested in this idea of traveling and serving the Lord. But when I came back from that DTS, I had a letter of acceptance from Georgia Tech. And so God kind of redirected my path. Okay, go into an engineering school. Started out in engineering, thought I wanted to do electrical or mechanical engineering, and ended up finding industrial design. So industrial design, creating products for the market, working with engineers. So my whole career has been around physical objects. Fast forwarding quite a bit, moved to Silicon Valley with my family, worked at HP designing the Reverb Gen 2 headset, which is a small picture there. Really, at the time, I was very interested in this emerging VR market. So Meta had come out, or rather Oculus had come out with the original DK1, DK2 headsets, which were about allowing people to be immersed in a three-dimensional world, within computing. HP was coming along kind of as a follower to say, hey, how can we take this into a larger scale with enterprise, do training and so on. Later transitioned to Meta. This was 3 years ago. Moved here to London, working on enterprise VR. So how to take headsets like the Quest Pro and sell them for users in a commercial market. So instead of just buying one at the local store, you could buy 100, set them up, and make them functional in your business. And then I got laid off, and that was not part of my expected journey. God had told my wife and I pretty clearly we were supposed to come to London, and this was just about a year and a half ago. You've all heard about the big tech layoffs, so I was one of those people here. Sought the Lord a lot on what to do next, and He's led me now to a company called Teslasuit. Teslasuit, I'm wearing one today, and I'll talk about it in a minute, but before I do that, I'm going to play a short video that will allow Anna Stewart from CNN to explain it to you. So please watch this for a second.
To make the most of this experience, I'm gearing up in haptic technology. This is called the Teslasuit, no relation to the car. It provides a more realistic sensory experience by using electromuscle stimulation. The makers behind this device have partnered with Somnium Space, an immersive world that can be accessed by both computer and virtual reality. The first person to greet me here is Artur Sitchov. He founded the platform in 2017. So Artur, are you wearing a haptic suit like me right now?
I am. I'm wearing the Teslasuit.
How different is the experience?
Teslasuit, I can feel the environment, so if it starts raining or snowing, or I'm flying, or I'm teleporting, or someone shoots at me or touches me, that's what I will feel it for real.
In addition to haptic compatibility, Artur says Somnium's unique because users have the freedom to develop their own worlds, ultimately creating an infinite landscape. The first world we visit features a chessboard, a jukebox, and a dance floor. Here, Artur introduces me to Eric and Nicole Stack, a married couple known in Somnium by their avatar names, The Real Cyberpunk and Crazy Nikki.
Anna, I'm telling you, better than any club.
I'm enjoying it in the metaverse. I'm probably going to find this excruciatingly embarrassing to watch it in real life.
Eric's been developing and building Insomnium for more than a year.
Eric, this is your creation. Wow, look at it.
And see, it even changes colors.
He says he designed and sold 20 of these vehicles in 2021. The money he made from those sales was so appealing that he decided to quit his job and work full-time in the metaverse.
All right, so that was an introduction to Teslasuit. So she explained everything, but it says here, we have 3 systems in the suit. We have haptic technology, which is an electrical system that allows you to feel things on your body through your skin layer. Also, we have the ability to accentuate your muscle, to actually make your muscle contract. And I'll talk about that more in a minute. The second system is motion capture. So you saw them dancing, moving around in the metaverse. That is because there's sensors also in the suit that allow the whole body to be tracked so you can have more natural walking, or movement in a 3D space. And then biometry, so this is a bit like a Fitbit in the suit that tracks your heart rate or other biosignals. I like to show that video because I think it shows a lot of what the suit can do, right? Artur is actually my business partner. He's also a director at Teslasuit, and he has built Somnium Space, which is a full metaverse. Those were actual people. You saw them, in VR and also engaging in a physical world. And this is also the future, as we've talked about a little bit with the younger generation, right? They're using this technology as well. It was mentioned before that kids are using TikTok. They're also using their parents' VR headsets. I've met a lot of these kids actually in the metaverse. So I think as an evangelistic tool, it's an opportune time to focus on how this is a place where we need to engage with the gospel. Teslasuit's obviously a full-body suit. It's a mix of textiles and electronics. It's really quite complicated, which is why I love it. And this is a little bit of a slide just to show kind of human-computer interaction over the ages. So back in the early 70s, as we were getting computing into a place where it was becoming more prominent, you had the invention of the keyboard and mouse. Like most of us can't imagine a computer without a keyboard and a mouse, but early computers, were just computing. They were like big calculators and knobs and switches. And then obviously you follow the trend up in the early 2000s. You had the invention of real consumer quality virtual reality headsets. So the ability to take that computer and put it on your body and be able to engage with it in a 3D world. This is a lot of what I had been thinking about since I was a kid, kind of like how can I be immersed in my technology and not just looking at a 2D screen. Obviously haptics is there, and then there's an emerging trend you might have heard about, like Elon Musk and Neuralink and these things where you can even sort of plug into the future world. It's obviously a spectrum of hardware and software, but it's additionally the idea that as humans, we want to take our physical senses and engage them much more in VR. So with a VR headset that we've talked about already, or with the emerging AR, and I've got my Meta Ray-Bans, right? So this big clunky thing, will one day look like this, right? And this is just a set of sunglasses, just not to fool anybody in the room. This is sunglasses that have audio and a camera on it. But Meta has already talked about a project called Orion, where you'll be able to see things on the screen to engage again with those digital objects that Ajit mentioned. And that will create this sort of physical and digital world that is the future of computing. So a little bit about Teslasuit. So we've been in development for a number of years. I joined the company, as was mentioned. I'm the Chief Product Officer. I joined just a few months ago, actually. And The company has been developing essentially development kits. So we are not yet sort of a commercialized product. We're not selling at mass scale. That's part of my job and my challenge. But we have been working with some of the people on the screen here. So in the world of medical, Reedy University in Netherlands has been doing a lot of testing with patients, not so much in VR, but actually in just the physical use of the suit. So the same electrical stimulation can help patients recover, for example, from post-surgical trauma, or if they've had a heart attack and they're learning how to walk again. So by attaching these electrical things to your body via the suit, you can stimulate the muscle to contract to help a patient re-engage in walking. They can also use the motion capture again to track their movement in space, so that the doctor or the physician can see how is their gait. Do they need to adjust their weight on each leg or something like this. In the middle, we have XR Training. One of many clients is a company called AVRT. They're here in the UK. They work especially with police and military to train officers to be in intense situations, right? How to engage with an enemy or a threat, to de-escalate the situation, obviously, and then also to correctly use their position of authority. So it's a way, again, with virtual reality, with a headset, you can see the virtual world and you can hear the sounds. You get those two senses, but the suit allows you to feel things, right, and to engage. And so it's a much more immersive and embodying experience. And then the final one on the right is University of Maryland. This is one of our academic partners. We have many universities have Teslasuits, even here across the UK. And with the University of Maryland, what they have done is they've worked with pilot training and said, like, what if you could help a pilot not just be able to read instrumentation without visual effects? Because when you're flying, you can't always see, right? You have clouds and so on. What if you could feel what's happening in the plane? So they did a test. They put a various pilot trainers in the suits, and they can call what's called fly by feel. So they can actually tell the pilot through the stimulation with haptics, like how the plane is oriented in 3D space. And if the plane is off, they can adjust their controls. And so some very interesting things happening there with some of the airlines and again, defense partners in that space. So these are just some examples of like how the Teslasuit's being used kind of in a academic or training sense. But again, going back to the metaverse, so again, this is in the middle, Arthur again, who you saw in his other avatar. I wanted to show this because, again, it shows that this virtual world, this is just one version of one man's interpretation of a virtual world. But I want to talk briefly about how Somnium Space works, because it was built on the blockchain, so you can actually come into this world and buy an NFT, which gives you a piece of property. You can then construct whatever you want to build on that space and invite people in. There's also a local digital currency, so you could like host an event in your space and people can pay with that token to come in and engage in that world. And again, you can see the characters on the screen. They're not all human-looking characters, right? You have the ability to create your persona, and this is again where the people who are involved in VR and this XR space are taking their view of themselves and expressing it in different ways in this world. But they can come and engage from all over the world, right? This is not a physical place. This is a virtual space, so they can be from any continent. They can converse together, meet together, talk about many things. I was hoping to show a demo, and I left this slide because the demo's broken. Because, hey, it's a tech conference, right? Like, the demo never works. It's not broken because it's my fault, though. Unfortunately, I messaged Arthur a number of times this morning. There's a web version of Somnium, so you don't have to even go into VR to experience Somnium Space. You can just click this web link, and if you want to take a picture, you can look at this later. You can just click this on your mobile phone even, and you can walk around and see a creation that my wife did for me, which is a circular podium with some columns. I was going to put some CV Digital Day like graphics up and kind of give you a little walking tour, but anyway, tech is tech. And then I want to touch on this for a second. This is kind of like from the tech side, when I put it all together. It's been mentioned a little bit about, we've heard about blockchain. Many of you are familiar with Web3, like the total scope of Web3. And my friend Jay and I are here in London leading the Christians in Web3 community. So if you're interested in that space, please talk to us about that. This is a slide I borrowed from a guy that I saw speak last year at FinTech Live, which I think explains well the emerging complete paradigm from a tech stack point of view. So you can see at the bottom, blockchain layer 1. These are the Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solanas that you might have heard about. The blockchain, in many ways, I think, is going to be like the electricity of the future. Or like, who here talks about internet or the World Wide Web, right? People know what that means. But who here talks about TCP/IP, right? So transfer control protocol, internet protocol. If you didn't have that, you wouldn't have the World Wide Web. You wouldn't have Facebook. You wouldn't have Instagram. So the blockchain, I think, is going to kind of become the Web3 version of that. That infrastructure will be there. I think we'll stop talking about it in a decade. You know, people will be less excited about Bitcoin as much as they're excited about what they're building on Bitcoin. And then in the middle, you've got some extra pieces. Layer 2 blockchains, but also things like the IoT, the mobile devices, like this is the ecosystem, right? It's not going to be just a VR headset. You know, you're not just going to go home, put this on, and spend some time, you know, hanging out. It's going to be around you all the time. I'm not saying you're all going to wear Teslasuits. I mean, that would be great. I'd love it. But I think we're going to be interacting. It's going to be the data and the visualizations coming through these tools. And then the top layer is this metaverse, right? People, it's just, everybody hates the term. Some people hate the term. Whatever it is, it's going to be this physical and digital reality that I described, that Ajit described. We're going to be going through and living in a virtual world, engaged with our digital world, and that is going to be sort of the user experience layer. So I like to reference this when I'm talking to people about how I think it all fits together. It's not just blockchain. It's not just AI. It's not just metaverse. It's all. Real quick, a few things on immersive. So I put this slide together thinking about like the way in which humans have communicated over time, right? So this is all sort of representing one story of Jesus telling parables, right? Jesus in the scriptures talked to his disciples and to his followers in parables. He told them stories. It was an oral tradition. This is before people knew how to write and had printing presses, right? In the middle, obviously, the Bible or some AI version I found online, representing that we had the Gutenberg press and the ability to disseminate information with words. And then on the right, the chosen, right? A more common today, like a bit more immersive, you would say, right? Watching Jesus walk around and screen and being embodied and kind of thinking differently about the words you read on the page as you see Jesus living his life. And I think the future beyond this is going to be more like Somnium Space, right? Imagine engaging with people or telling stories in VR. Imagine the things Ajit showed, where you're engaging with sheep and wolves, and you're embodying this experience, right? So things are becoming more immersive with this technology. Communications, you guys all, I'm sure, know what a Zoom call is like, the pros and cons. When I worked at Meta, we did a little bit with the Horizon Workrooms team. The idea for Horizon Workrooms was to bring yourself again physically into a workspace. So you have a table, you have people around as avatars talking to each other, engaging with each other. Most of the people that use Workrooms, had feedback similar to what we heard before, which was I felt more engaged. I felt more like I wasn't looking at a small box on a screen. I could see the person. I could give them a high five. I could talk to them. I could get on the whiteboard and draw things. It was engaging and more like real life. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that in immersive communications. And then with memories, this is just sort of a picture to show the idea, but like I think everybody knows this is cross-cultural. People use their refrigerator as a way to capture their children's artwork, right? Or some magnet from the store you bought here in London with a bus, right? Or something, or the tube or whatever. So it's when you travel and when you share things with each other, right now these things are physical. You can stick them, on your refrigerator. But in the future, they're going to be augmented objects, right? Your refrigerator could be like having moving parts, or you could have on your table a digital object that you see when you wear your glasses or whatever. And this will become more normal. You'll even give gifts and receive gifts, things that are digital as well as physical. And this kind of just leads to immersive living. Like we're all going to be, I'm a bit of a futurist and an optimist. Like in the future, this is going to happen, but we're eventually all going to be living in this sort of physical, digital world. And so as we, Teslasuit's one way to do that, but as we get toward this goal, I really just want to encourage you all in the room. Number one, I've talked a lot about immersive, but immerse yourself in Jesus, right? Like we have our time with the Lord every day. He's given us this life. We should be thankful, but I'd say more than immersing in tech, immerse yourself in the Lord. Number two, embrace this technology. Like, don't be afraid of it. Don't listen to the negative parts. There's always a Black Mirror version, right? but focus on what can be done well. And then number three, I think, there's a friend of mine said 20 years ago, when you look at Daniel and his friends when they went to Babylon, the statement that's written in the scriptures was that they were 10 times wiser, 10 times better than all the wisest men in Babylon. And I think that's us. We all need to embrace this stuff. We need to be immersed in the Holy Spirit, and we need to build things that are 10 times better. So thank you. This is a way to link.